Okay, well, hopefully this works. Hopefully the sound works. I just thought I'd do a quick little video on why surveyors tie into the boundary when the boundary's been done already. I've even had developers who are clients and they're asking this question, right? Hey, I already had this boundary done and I just need a topo. Okay. And it wasn't I who did the boundary though. They had another surveyor do the boundary and they're hiring me to do the boundary, and it's a little bit of a red flag. Or they're hiring me to do the topo now, topographic survey, but it's a little bit of a red flag. Why are they having a different surveyor do a different task? But I've done lots of them. A lot of times it's not the client's fault, although it can be. A lot of times it's the surveyor's non-responsive. He did a bad job, bad attitude, poor communication. He can't do it for 2 months or 3 months legitimately. So I've done dozens of these where I've taken over a project, a lot of times just because I can get to it quicker. Okay, so the idea here is the boundary's been done by another firm. We're taking over. Now they need a topo. And in your proposal, you outline that we need to make ties to the boundary in order to show the record boundary lines on the topographic map. I'm in California, so it's perfectly legal in California. I'm not talking about Idaho, where I'm also licensed. In Idaho, you would have to do a measured boundary for all the corners in that state. So this is state specific, so nobody freak out. So you give the proposal to the client, and they're like, well, the boundary's been done already. I don't understand. So from a survey perspective, and maybe most of my subscribers are surveyors, but for those of you who aren't, let's pretend that you could literally see the contours on the ground, like it's like Tron, where you can touch it, it's glowing, right? And so you walk out to a property and you see the property lines on the ground and you see the contours are on the ground. This is some fanciful world we don't live in, right? And how would you know, though, where that contour is in relation to the property? Well, you could see it visually, but how do you get that on paper and into AutoCAD for the designer to work? You would have to measure it, right? You'd have to go, well, so many feet up this property line and so many feet over is this one spot on this one particular point of a contour. Still not going to it's still not going. No one's seeing my gestures. I'm like gesturing. And you're still not going to be able to relate that easily, right? So what happens is people hire a surveyor, and surveyors can't see the contours on the ground. We can't see the property lines, but we can find the property corners, and we can create a grid that we then create contours from, right? Well, those grades need to relate to the property lines and corners somehow mathematically, right? It's not magic. So yes, you had a surveyor do the property already. So in theory, I should be able to do the property quicker than he did, just because hopefully his lath are still there, his witness stakes, the corners he found are still there. But I need to take my robot, my survey instrument, tie into those corners so that when I create contours, they mathematically relate to the boundary. There's no other way to do it. Just because it was done before doesn't mean I can forego tying out 2 or 3 of the corners so that I can plot the record boundary. There's no way to do it other than guessing. You could guess, right? You could like, hey, I think it's right here. But other than guessing or some sort of weird pseudoscience, we need to make those minimal ties. Now that doesn't mean in the California and Arizona and I think a couple other states, it doesn't mean you can't just plot the record for the rest of the boundary. So the client doesn't want you to go out and find all the corners. That's fine, and that'll save them some money. But there is no magical way to not attempt to use math and geometry to get the boundary and the contours to be on the same page literally on the same page, right? That's the whole point of a site plan, is everything's all on that one page. It all relates to one another geographically. So just thought I'd make a little video about that. Hopefully it's educational for people. Not going to go into all the details, but it's basically just using math and science to relate the building locations, utilities, and contours to the property lines, even if it's been surveyed before. Thanks a lot. Hopefully that was useful.